Hello everyone, how are you this morning on this beautiful Monday morning? I've just had a weekend away back at my yoga temple where I did my yoga training, and I feel just steeped in peace and a sense of connection back to myself and the devotion that used to be such a big part of my practice and has sort of slowly eroded away with life getting in the way. And this little one in the back here. So I don't know who's on this morning. I want to talk about boundaries because sometimes we get caught up in just thinking what they are, and we set them and we think that they're all good, but over time they erode. And when I describe the three different types of boundaries, you may realize that actually you're not always looking at all three. You may be focused more on one or the other. And when we have great boundaries, then we have more energy. We are putting things in a priority. We find that we are more effective. We have more mental clarity. We have less stress. So there's a lot of reasons to have great boundaries, but it's my experience that most people don't understand the three different types and also how to create that, how to deal with it. So we're going to talk about that this morning. So let me know if you're on, where you're watching from. It's Monday morning, so I'm sure we'll get a lot of watches back. So if you're watching the replay, just put hashtag replay. And if you have any questions or any insights, then I would love to hear from you. And I'll also let you know later on in this how to do more of this work, because I do work in a very holistic way. My speciality is helping people to really step up and make more of an impact without having to compromise their well-being, without having to compromise their family and their personal time, and how to do that with awakening the power of the feminine and ancient sacred tools and practices that are, yes, they're ancient, but we make them appropriate for the modern day woman. So let me know if you are more interested in that and talking to me. So the three types of boundaries. Now, one of them, which I talk about quite a lot on here, is the energetic boundaries. Now, we need to have an energetic boundary. So you may or may not know that we have, an aura, we have an energy space around us, and it's really important that we maintain that, we're aware of that, and we hold that in integrity. Because when we don't fully expand, hey, Miss Minnie, when we don't allow our energy to fully expand, we're more vulnerable. And when we allow others into our energy by allowing our energy bubble to leak, we're also more vulnerable. Now, we can also project and push out our energy. Not many women do that. Some do. Some project their energy out in an effort to be seen, be heard, be liked. But more often than not, what I see with women is they let their energy leak in an effort to connect, in being that empath, in being the yes woman, right? So that is more often than not. So this is one of the things that I teach. If you want to know more about this, come along to our next half day on the 20th of August. But we need to learn how to expand our energy and take up the space, claim our space. But we also need to learn how to seal that up, how to contain that so that other people's energy doesn't get in, because then it's very easy to be pushed and pulled by the shoulds and the demands of other people. And that's not always empowering for us, and it's not always empowering for them. Because if we allow ourselves to kind of have this bleeding heart and this sense that we have to fix and help and heal everybody, then we don't always empower others to the fullest. And I asked a question the other week that you may have seen, the tough question: is your caring more caring for you or caring for others? And if we're not clear about our boundary, then we're not going to be clear about our intention behind our actions. So always, 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 your energy, your container, your expansiveness has to come first, because that's how you get an infinite source of energy for yourself. That's how you get clarity around how to act in any given moment. Yeah. And that's why it needs to come first. And then you are then like a magnet for things that need to come to you, people that need your help. And you don't have to go trying, you don't have to go seeking, you don't have to put too much effort into getting what you want, right? Because there's more magnetism in that. So that's energetic boundaries, or that's a small part of energetic boundaries to help you understand what is going on in your energy. Are you contracted? Are you shrunk? Are you leaking and over-connecting? And the ways to kind of know this is if you do struggle to make decisions, if you have low energy, if you find yourself following the demands of others and not necessarily clear about what you want, then something is going on in that energetic boundary. You can be sure of it. So that's the first thing. The second one is more the physical boundaries. So let me know if you, first before we move on to that, if you relate to any of that with the energetic boundaries. Yeah, do you relate, and what part do you relate? And it might be different in different parts of your life. Yeah. And this is something that I teach people to be very aware of all the time. Yeah, all the time, because we're in community a lot of the time. We're with other people. And when we're with ourselves, if we shrink, then we're not necessarily giving ourselves the most optimum opportunity for joy and energy and stepping up and feeling, that we're living purposefully and, stepping up. So physical boundaries. This is more around our environment, not just physically, like I have a sofa here, I've got sun here, I've got this beautiful plants on my bookshelf. Not just that, but it's partly that. It's also, how do you structure your day? How do you allow or not allow people to come into your day and take up space? Invade your boundaries. Now, this is something that I realized this weekend, and I've been realizing it for a while. I just hadn't quite pulled it back in, that I had slowly been allowing this boundary to go. Now, my physical boundary in terms of stuff is great. Like, I set up and create a beautiful space, but I had been allowing the demands of work, or my self-imposed demands of work, and my thinking that I needed to show up at certain times, or I needed to answer messages straight away, or I needed to do this, had been slowly eroding the boundaries that I needed to contain my energy and get clear about what I was doing when in my day. Yeah, now this is huge. So sit with this if you are listening now. How clear are your boundaries that you have your time to go deep into your connection to self? Because if you can't create that time to go deep into connection to self, then you are going to suffer. You are going to suffer. It's one of the three keys, or the three reasons, or the three things that we need to do if we're not going to suffer. And one is that time in, that introspection, that self-inquiry, and it's the practices that we do that build our presence, that energetically raise and shift the frequency, our vibration. Because the rest of the time we can be so pushed and pulled apart if we don't do that. Now, I've been letting that slowly erode. I was still doing my personal practices, but the quality of it had been getting a little watered down, and the amount of time that I've been allocating had been condensing, right? And I realized with the depth that I went with my practice this weekend, because I was away, that, wow, huge connection, huge peace, huge levels of mental calm, clarity, joy. That's what you're missing out on if you allow the demands of others in your environment to take over your time. To take over your time. You must. If you are on a path of personal growth and spiritual development, if you don't carve out that time, then you are going to suffer. So Susie's just saying you don't give yourself that time in. You have to. It is priority. I've come away. This is always a bit of a priority for me, but it has eroded, and it does. And that's why we have to revisit our boundaries. We have to check in with these energetic, physical and environmental boundaries, and what I'm going to talk about in a moment, the mental boundaries. We have to. It is imperative. It has to come absolutely number one. And I've come back with this renewed conviction about making myself number one, and not just making myself number one and saying that as a sort of general global statement, but making that so by carving out the time. You can't say it and not do it in action. If you are just saying it and you haven't created an action, you're not really decided, you're not really committed, you're not firm in that. How have you done that? How have you carved that out? How are you going to support that? How are you going to celebrate that? How are you going to reward that if it's something challenging? So my new thing is now getting up again at 5:30, which I used to do, and it's slowly slid further and further back and invaded more of my day, which puts more pressure on the other things I need to do. So now I'm pulling it right back. I'm really spending that hour and a half in the morning to do my mantra, do my practice, do my written pages, whatever it is that I need to do in the morning. And you must carve out that time. Even if for you it's 15 minutes. If you haven't been doing anything, then you need to create that time. And 15 minutes, might be all that you need to start. Because if you don't do that at least once, if not twice a day at the end of the day, then you don't have any hope of pulling back those boundaries in the rest of the day, because we don't remind ourselves enough. We're not creating this space to lift our frequency, lift our vibration. And so we get more and more vulnerable energetically when we don't create time out for our physical boundaries. Does that make sense? Yeah. So if we don't carve out physical time to practice, then energetically we're much more sensitive during the rest of the day to other people's energies, because we haven't created that resilience by having strong physical boundaries. Now, this might not just be around your practice. It might be around the demands of your family. It might be around the demands of your friends. It might be around, creating a space to practice. It might be that you don't have any plants or beauty in your office. Yeah. So there's lots of ways that we can enhance our physical environment, but I'm talking about the boundaries, right? The boundaries that take up our time, that invade the time that we so need to lift. Yeah. Because I'm interested in working with people that want change, that want to create change, that are on a path of personal growth, that want to step up into their highest potential. And so I know that that's you out there watching, right? And you need to look at this physical boundary and go, am I committed? So Susie, are you committed to that time? And when can you regularly say that you can fit that in? And when, and for how long? So make it achievable. Make it achievable and make it enjoyable. So if you love doing mantra, make it 15 minutes of mantra and then into some meditation. If you prefer the physical practice, do your physical practice, and don't let anything else come into that space. Guard it preciously, because this is your time to connect, just not with you, but with this higher part of you, the divine mystery that flows through you. And when you align with the divine, instead of everything else just around you, creation, you align with the creator, as Sri Yukteswar says, then the divine aligns with you. Yeah, more grace comes into your life, more joy comes into your life, more opportunities, more ease. Right? But when we get carried away with everything else out here, outside of ourselves, then it's like the universe kind of switches off to us. They say, oh, they're not awake, they're not seeing clearly. So that's the importance of physical boundaries. You must carve out that space. So we've got energy boundaries, we've got physical boundaries, and the third one, and I know they all go hand in hand, but we need to look at them separately, is mental boundaries. Mental boundaries. Now, this is one that most people don't really maybe think about, or don't think about in this way. How much do you let your mind run amok? Absolutely run amok and take you here, there, and everywhere. In yoga, we call it the vrittis, the whirlpools, and the, there's another word for it, but yeah, the whirlpools of the mind. And if we let that go off, then we are going to be very disturbed by that. Yeah, it's going to reduce our sense of self-worth. It's going to put obstacles in our way by saying, you can't do this, you should be doing that. Why did you do this? Yeah, it's full of judgment. It's full of trying to keep you small and keep you safe. It's the darkness, right? So when people talk about darkness and light, the devil and the angels, or however you want to see that, that's the mind, the ego, the darkness that keeps pulling you back into that, egoic, that's all about you and your story, right? We need to refine that. We must put some fences around that, the whirlpools of the mind. And we must be alert and aware as to what the mind is telling us, and be constantly asking the question, is that true? And actually, is the exact opposite more true? Because I don't know about you, but more often than not, the mind has a lot of negative shit to say. Right? It's not overly positive. And if it is positive, it can be like, yeah, I'm all that, I'm awesome, which is just the other side of the ego trying to uplift us. But if we don't see the truth, if we don't see clearly, then we're just getting, again, pulled around in stuff that's not true. And it's going to lead us off track and make things harder for us. Right? That's the law of the universe, if you like. So when your mind is full of whirlpools, Susie, what is the thing that you need to do? The number one tool for the mind is mantra. Mantra. Now this is, I think it must be my overall number one favorite practice, mantra, because it is so powerful. It is so easy to do. It is so portable to do. And there are so many options and fun things that you can do and play with it. Now, mantra comes from the word manas in Sanskrit, which means the mind. So we are around controlling the mind or pulling the mind into boundaries and not letting the ego and the story and the judgment and the shoulds constantly obliterate our clarity, our self-worth, our energy, because it's exhausting listening to that mind, and it creates so much stress. Because if we start following the mind, we're going way off down here. If the path's in front of us, the mind can take us all the way down here, and we've wasted all that time and energy. We could have come back in here. Now, there are so many mantras. And the beauty of Sanskrit mantra is that it actually shifts your vibration. It lifts your frequency to a vibration of what the mantra describes. All right, so it is incredibly powerful. It's better than just sort of doing affirmations, because we have to get this shift in our makeup. It lifts you to a vibration where you can feel the potential. And so not only does it shift your vibration and your energy and your cells, you can feel it. Yeah, you can feel it. And we know that we have to feel something to create something. And so one of my absolute favorite mantras, and there are lots of them, but one that I actually posted on the Radiant Femmes, if you're part of the Radiant Femmes movement, you'll see it on there. If not, jump on. It's another place that we connect and inspire and have different hashtags for the day, so we can just share brilliance to help keep our vibration up, Radiant Femmes movement. And the one I shared on there today is Om Gum Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gum Ganapataye Namaha. And this is the energy of Ganesha, it's the elephant-headed god. And this mantra is around, it's good for beginners and it's good for the completely initiated, like it's good for everyone, because it's around, Ganesha is the gatekeeper, if you like, of our base chakra. And so this creates a lot of safety when you're on the personal path. It creates a lot of protection. But the energy is all around shifting your energy, yeah? Shaking you up. So you start to see things differently, right? Start to shift and create new opportunities. So it's around removal of obstacles is this energy, and bestowing blessings on any new venture, any idea, any new journey. So great at beginnings, all right? But also just great if you're just feeling stuck and you need that shift, get stuck into the Ganesha mantra. But the thing with mantras, you know, like particularly if you're new to mantras, you need to really be consistent. If you've been doing mantra for a long time and you spend consistent times doing it, then you can just jump in and do, say, Ganesha mantra quickly, and you'll get, you know, very quick results. And we were talking at the weekend about all sorts of magical stories that we have around it, and I'll share one of mine in a moment. Around doing mantra. But if you are new to mantra, then you need to sort of show up, right? You need to show the universe that you're serious about this. So you really need to repeat those mantras. You do it for 5-10 minutes, or count 108 if you have a mala, which is just a way that we count mantra. It's just a very powerful number. If that's too much for you, then just do 12, which is easy to count on your fingers. It's another auspicious number. And if you do it consistently, and you sit in retrospection afterwards, you sit in reflection, sit in meditation to allow that energy to unfold, then you'll start to see the changes of it in your life. And when you start to really adopt this as a practice of controlling the mind, you'll notice that your mind is so much clearer, so much calmer, and you're able to call on these different mantras at different times and get quick results. So I'll share a story of when I did a Ganesha mantra. I'd been away overnight at a temple sort of function. It's called Shivaratri, and it was a whole night of chanting and singing and that kind of thing. And one of the things, you know, that can happen on the spiritual path when you do some intense practice like that is you can get what's called a karmic bomb happen. And a karmic bomb is like something going off in your life that you think, wow, that is so random and so kind of weird, and usually a little bit kind of negative. You might put it in the negative bracket, but it's sort of something that's a little bit harmless, even though it's like, whoa, it's not as bad as it seems at the time, because it's your karma coming to fruition. You've done all this work, you've cleared all this karma, all this energy is moving. It's like, bam, something has to get released somehow. And so it gets released, but it's not as bad as it could have been. So this is what happened to me. And after the Shivaratri, I went back to get my car, which was about an hour's drive. We'd carpooled, got in my car, and I noticed there was no petrol in the car. And I was like, well, that's really weird. I'm sure I had petrol in when I got here. And I was about 5 minutes from the petrol station, so not far. So I started doing the Durga mantra. This is my first. This is a few parts to this story. So this was the first bit. I started doing my Durga mantra as I'm driving along. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. Because this is another protecting mantra. And I was like, okay, I just need to get to the petrol station. I can fill up with petrol. I don't want to, die halfway here in the car, because I've been up all night. I was exhausted. I just wanted to get home. So Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. And I get to the petrol station. So I get to the petrol station in one piece, and I'm like, oh, thank you so much. And I start to put petrol in the car. And it took me a couple of minutes. Well, maybe not a couple of minutes, but it took me a little bit. And I suddenly realized that, oh my gosh, the petrol was just gushing into the car and straight back out again. It was gushing onto the forecourt. Like, quickly stopped and went, oh my gosh, what's going on? Went and got the forecourt manager and said, look, this petrol's going all over the floor. I don't know what's going on. And he had a look underneath, and someone had cut my fuel line and siphoned it off there overnight. So this was the karmic bomb, right? Whoa. Something awful could have happened right there, and I could have run out of petrol in the middle of nowhere. Someone could have been smoking there or something. This could have been such a disaster with this petrol everywhere. So I was a little bit stressed in this moment, I have to admit. Didn't go straight to my mantra. I had virtually no power on my phone, but I just prayed, please let me have enough power. Please let me have enough power on my phone to ring RICQ. Weirdly, I wasn't insured in that vehicle because we had the other vehicle and it was me in the car and not my husband. So there was this stuff, but I managed to get that sorted. And then RICQ was going to come out, and they told me that RICQ was so busy that morning that they might take up to 2 to 3 hours to get there. And I was like, oh, I've been up all day and all night and I just want to go home. So I'm like, okay. So they pushed the car away from the petrol tanks because it was very dangerous, and covered everything up with the sand or sawdust or whatever it was to soak up the fuel. My car's over by the side. I had my mat and my mala beads in there. So I sat down and I was just like, please just let this work out fine. I just want to go home. All right. And so I started doing my Ganesha mantra. Om Gum Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gum Ganapataye Namaha. And I did 108, which takes about 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And I opened my eyes, just feeling so much more relaxed. And there was the RICQ van driving in. So where they told me it was going to be 2 to 3 hours, it was 15, 20 minutes. And there he was right in front of me. I was like, oh, thank you so much. I get to go home. And I was only 15, 20 minutes from home by this point. And then he says to me, well, actually, this is a very dangerous situation because of the petrol that's been coming out of your car. If when I drive this car or pull your car up onto the back of the truck, if any petrol falls out, I'm not going to be able to take your car because it's too dangerous. If it's still pouring out, someone could flick a cigarette out the window or something like that, and we could go up in flames. And I'm like, okay. So I'm just, in my mind, I'm doing the Ganesha mantra again, thinking, oh, don't let this, be a thing. And he pulls the car up and not one drop of petrol falls out. Thank you so much. And not only that, because it was a Sunday, normally with RICQ, they're supposed to take you just to the nearest mechanic to fix your car. I just said, I just need to go home. It's a Sunday morning. It was still early, which is why I knew no one was going to be up. I said, can you just please take me home and then drop the car at the mechanics? And he goes, I can do that for you. And so he dropped me home. Oh, so grateful. And then dropped my car at the mechanics. And I was just, or the other way around, I can't remember which way, but it was just one of these things that, okay, it could have been a huge, big thing. No petrol, fuel everywhere, 3 hours waiting. And in the end, it wasn't. I got to the petrol station, I dealt with it. It was 15, 20 minutes. And then I was back home. And it was a very simple repair to the car. It was $50 to put the fuel line back in. So it's just, wow, if anyone else has a story around mantra, we were collecting miracle stories at the weekend, and one of my teachers was writing them down in a book. There's so many cool things that happen when you do mantra, and it becomes a huge part of your life. that you don't get caught up in these negative stories. You don't get pulled mentally into other people's stuff, which can be exhausting. Yeah, all of this, if we don't manage these boundaries, these mental boundaries, energetic boundaries, physical boundaries, it's the biggest thing that drains our energy, because we're not relying on our true self. We're not pulling into the spine. We're not pulling into center and aligning with the divine, aligning with this higher energy that flows through us. We're thinking that we're all that. We're thinking that we're in control. We're thinking that the ego is telling us the two stories. We're thinking we have to do everything for everyone else. Yeah, we're thinking that it's selfish to have time for ourselves. But when we can pull in and get clarity, and we can carve out this time for ourselves, and we create this energy around us, then we are living in alignment. Yeah, in alignment with the divine. And that's where there is infinite energy. There is calm, there is clarity, there is confidence. But it's something that we need to be alert of all the time, because the energies of everything else around us can slowly erode our will and our alignment and our strength of holding those practices dear and strong. So I wanted to inspire you this Monday to, look at that. Just take one. Do you need to focus more on mental boundaries, Susie? Yeah. And when you do those mantras, carve out that time for it. Do it constantly on your way to work, and go a little bit early so you can just sit 5-10 minutes in the car after you've done your mantra, and just feel the effects of that before you go into your work or before you come back into the house. And there's so many ways that we can incorporate this stuff, but it needs to be consistent. We have to want it enough. Yeah. We have to not want what's going on the other side. So if we're tired, if we're exhausted, mentally stressed, fed up, we have to not want that enough to motivate us to be really strong in our boundaries, to do the work. All right, my loves, I'm going to leave you there on this magical Monday. I'm going to go and have a hot shower. I'm still in my clothes from the weekend. Done my practice this morning, been out for my walk, spoken to you beautiful peeps, and now it's time to, come in and get myself a little bit more sorted out from a cleanliness point of view, and unpacking and getting stuck into some other stuff. So I hope your day goes amazing. I hope your week goes even better, and I'll see you soon. Love to you.